Greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton. Usually, when we do these new movies, right, we have a little non-spoiler section up front and then go into spoilers. Well, guess what we forgot to do? We go straight into spoilers. So if you were like waiting to watch Saw X, don't listen to this episode yet. If you're waiting for our recommendation, I'll give you this. It's the Saw movie we like best so far. So it's an actual real movie, everybody. So that's a spoiler alert for the episode. If you don't care about spoilers and you just want to listen, that's the best news of all, because all you have to do is wait until I am done yammering and the episode is going to start. So anyways, that's your spoiler warning, everybody. I hope that you are having a fun and productive Thanksgiving weekend, no matter where you are in the world. And now the body count continues. So this was a refreshing change of pace, and
yes,
this is what I feared. This was my worst nightmare. That I would like.
Fuck!
God damn it. There were no underground zoos.
No, it wasn't. Everything wasn't like a sickly green color.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right. We're talking about Saw X10 for Sawsgiving on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from Sawsville, Canada, USA. And Mexico, I suppose. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. And of course, today it's that one special time of year where we discuss, with no regard to continuity or concept of what the hell is happening, a Saw movie. And we're talking about the latest, Saw X10X. Because there's only one person that I trust to make sure that when I get waterboarded with blood, she will live to play soccer again. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I feel like that if we were being bloodboarded, that yes, we would continuously let the other one get some air, right, while we dip back into the gelatinous goop that we're being held in. Yeah,
I think the goal would be to run out of blood, because honestly, where the fuck did he get that much blood, Gina?
That can't be all from one guy.
Yeah, like he knew the local blood guy. Where did he get all that blood?
I feel like it was just like a very long hose connected to like the nearest slaughterhouse.
Sure. Well, you know what? I think we learned at some point that he had owned a pig farm, and so that's why he shows up in pig masks. Listen, I think I have more questions about the Saw series in general than I do about this motion picture. We will get to it, but I don't want to scare you, Gina, because we are not alone. That's right. We have a special guest. Now, you may know her as an Ontario-based trade journalist with bylines for Vice and Real Screen and Streets of Toronto and Playback, but she's also the host of Peak Show, is now entitled Tales from the Rec Room, and is a former resident of Sawsville, USA, Canada. The one, the only, Bree Rody. How are you doing today, Bree?
Wait, you guys have been pronouncing it Saw X? Because I've been saying Socks.
Right, sure.
That works.
Thank you so much for having me for Sawsgiving. This is a literal dream come true, you guys.
Well, this is, you called your shot. You pointed to the rafters and said, the thing that brought me in is the thing that I want to do on the show.
Absolutely.
And so why don't you tell the audience, how did you even hear about Sawsgiving in the first place?
Well, and as you stated up front, I am from Canada.
Yes.
Much like this series, I think the best thing that ever happened to me was that I left Toronto, but I was based in Toronto for about 10 years. And I think I was a longtime listener of We Hate Movies. And I think it was the first Sawsgiving, which featured Steve Sadak, who also since then has been on my show, Tales from the Rec Room. But we were deep into COVID lockdowns and I had just started running and I really like running to podcasts. And I was like, okay, yeah, this looks like it could be about the length of my run. And now it is a thing. Every American Thanksgiving, when work lets off and it's nice and dark, I put on Sawsgiving and I go for what I have officially called like my creepy as fuck Sawsgiving run. And it just fills me with a lot. I have a fascination with American Thanksgiving. We have Thanksgiving here in Canada, but it's a different time of year. It's on a Sunday. It's not a big deal. And so I have this thing like, I'm going to invent my own little American Thanksgiving traditions, and Sawsgiving has become a big part of it. I don't know if I'll listen to this while going on a run because I don't know if I could listen to my own voice for that long, but.
Well, I mean, you edit your own show. I have to listen to my own voice for way longer than I want to every single week.
That is my own personal saw trap, is listening to my own voice.
Every once in a while, I will listen back to an old episode to dip back into something or to hear whatever jokes I may have said at the particular time, just to enjoy something that is completely divorced from what we're currently talking about. But I can't, even when we've had a run of some very fun episodes as of late, that Christine one in particular, Gina, and even Thriller.
Yeah, I have no shame. I couldn't
listen back to them once they were released on Friday. I just couldn't do it.
Oh, I have no shame. I re-listened to them. I just listened to the Abracadabra episode, which just came out last week.
Yeah,
I listened to that earlier this week because several people reached out and found it very amusing the way you announced in despair that we had to stop saying the word panties. And you know what? It is hilarious because your voice just breaks. You just sound so exhausted. Like, we have to stop talking about panties.
It's I died a little. A year might have been taken off of my life, but perhaps that was my own saw trap because I said it for myself. I'm the one who said we will talk about abracadabra in this episode, and I have been lamenting it ever since. But listen, we can talk about my just lack of producer instincts all the live long day. But that would stop us from talking about what we're here to do, really dig into, which is Saw 10, Saw X, Socks. And it was exactly what I feared it would be. A competent Saw movie.
A competent, coherent Saw movie in which I did not have to keep Wikipedia open to keep track of who everyone was and how they connected to the greater Sawsverse overall.
I think there are 4 things that you need to just make Saw into a good movie, because I will say, like, the one good foundation you have there is Tobin Bell. I don't think he's a great actor or anything, but he's carved out this wonderful little niche in his role as Jigsaw. He has been the best / only good thing about these movies up until now. The 4 other things you need are, you need daylight. You just fucking need daylight. You need a bit of a sense of humor. You need to drop these flashbacks, and you need hot people. And I would say that the closest we came prior to that was Jigsaw, the 8th one. I think that one is an okay movie. I mean, like, comparing it to the rest.
I'll take your word for it. No clue whether or not that is.
And then I admittedly, like an idiot, I had high hopes for the Chris Rock one because it does go outside, but it doesn't have any humor or levity. This kind of had a little bit of everything. It had hot people, and it had, I don't think, a single flashback to another movie.
No. There were, and like towards the end, I'm like, wow, there are a lot of things going for this movie. And then a character has a flashback of something she did not see. I assume he's simply imagining it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, that's a bit of the flavor to keep me going.
Yeah, I had to take a slight point off when fucking Hoffman shows up.
Yeah.
In the mid-credit sequence, I'm like, ew.
Dude,
why do you gotta remind me of my least favorite character?
Of all the things that people, I can't imagine being just like a huge Saw fan. And then you get through this, and you're like, wow, listen, opinions vary. Maybe they hated it. I don't know. But it seemed from online, the people were genuinely satisfied. And then you, like, without having to see Lieutenant Porchetta arrive, and then he fucking shows up, and you're like, why? Why do we need this? Like, we don't need, it's everything I don't want in a Saw movie is for him to show up. And then he does, as if like, you've been waiting. No, I haven't. Was hoping it wasn't going to happen at all. Thank you very much.
I told you that our friend Megan will send me TikTok reels that people make that are basically just thirst cuts of Hoffman. She'll send them to me strictly because she knows it'll make me mad.
As I've established, this franchise does not have a lot of hot people in it. So maybe, I guess, if you're choosing between him and Luke from Gilmore Girls, but I would say, I mean, this is a franchise that has at one point tapped Callum Keith Rennie, beloved Canadian, and we're still really glomming on to Hoffman, a Hoffman who looks like, and this reference will mean absolutely nothing unless you're from Toronto or possibly Columbus, but this man looks like if Mike Babcock were found at the bottom of a lake and they pulled him out and he was kind of bloated. That's what this man looks like. I don't
even want to Google this. I just wanted to live.
We just compare him to like various cuts of low quality cuts of meat.
Yeah, he's the Scrapple of actors, and I didn't need it. I really, really, really don't want him to be part of anything going forward.
Not even with the quote epic bad luck.
That felt like a what I dislike about the Saw movies. Where up to that point I'm like, all right, I'm invested. I'm watching this.
Why do these movies need stingers?
I don't know. Yeah,
I assumed
you should have just had them walk outside, walk back that small blood-covered child back to his father, who absolutely won't have any questions at all.
And just get that giant Saw X font at the end. I love it. Love it.
It was so I think usually on these episodes, I'm trying to grapple with the weirdness of trying to piece together what is possibly going on here. And this movie goes out of its way to tell a story, Gina.
It does. And it's a coherent story.
Yes.
You understand John Kramer's motives.
Right.
Every single person that he gets into these traps 100% deserves it. You're not getting
the edge. They're given that grace to actually weigh whether or not this is an appropriate response given the information they have. It fixes so many Saw movie problems.
Yes.
That I thought to myself, they took 10 movies to do it, but they figured out how to make a Saw sequel.
And even doing their favorite thing of bringing back a character who, if you're going by, in order of when the movies came out, died like 5 movies ago.
Right. Yeah.
It still kind of works out. And Shawnee Smith looks great. I didn't.
Shawnee Smith looks great. Her wig, however.
Well, yeah.
That is Scream 3 level. Oh my God, that's a bad haircut. That is, what the fuck is going on here? I know she has an odd one in Scream. I looked it up. Like, what is her hair look like in Saw 2? And it's kind of a teased version of what she has. But it's like they they took the hair off of Rocket Boy, that Japanese anime, and they slapped it on top of her head.
I still think that's nicer than my notes because I just wrote Amanda looks like a turf in my notes.
She does have that Karen haircut. I meant more that she neither looks like she's aged much, nor does it look like they've done anything to her face digitally to shave off, let's say, 10 years between when she last was in these movies and when this movie is supposed to take place.
I mean, Shawnee Smith is in her early 50s. I think she looks great. And you can kind of similarly use the same logic that you're using with Tobin Bell, who's in his, I think, 80s, playing a man in his 50s, a man who has brain cancer. And so you have to assume, that's draining the life out of him.
Right. He looks like he looks old as shit, but you know what? Like it works for what's happening to his character.
As similarly, Shawnee Smith is playing someone who lives with substance use disorder. And you can assume like, oh yeah, that's probably taking its toll on her. You know, we don't judge here.
Sort of within the internal logic of the movie. It makes sense. And ultimately, because they invest so much in both of their characters, I wouldn't care anyways that people age. Like, fucking time happens and everything. But it all works here.
It does. It and I like the aspect of they're both very offended when people don't play by the rules. They're they're absolutely shocked when this was Cecilia was the big bad. She breaks the one girl's neck right in front of them. They're like, what? How could you do that? It's like you just made somebody saw off their own head.
Yeah. It just, because they invest in the character story, the movie makes a ton of sense. And as a result, you're not left just wondering where the underground zoo is. Or, I still wonder who brought the large digital clock. Did Amanda fly with both the puppet and the large digital clock?
Yeah, I mean, there's still some like logistical issues that you find yourself occasionally distracted by. But I did find, to my own surprise, the storyline engaging enough to not really worry about that too much.
Right. I stopped taking notes at a certain point. I watched it as if it was a film I was invested in. And I was like, oh my God, it's happened. A Saw movie has gotten me. I've started to pay attention to it and not just wonder, why is my brain itching so much? I don't understand what the fuck is going on. Some of that is the fact that we've watched it out of order, but some of it is just, they don't make a lot of sense. And
I remain convinced.
They didn't have to care.
I remain convinced that it does not actually matter if you watch them sequentially as to how they were released or according to how the plot flows. I really don't think it matters.
No,
and I don't think it would make any more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you probably didn't anticipate this when you carved out the idea for Sawsgiving, but truly, they're just throwing things in where they fit. I think the one thing that I did have to kind of look up on Wikipedia is, I don't know when in the movie we get confirmation that this is supposed to take place between number 1 and number 2. I'm just like, kind of like, yeah, sure, I guess. You could have told me it was between any 2 movies, including the ones in which Jigsaw was already worm food, and I'd be like, yeah, sure.
Because his presence is still there.
Yeah,
it's hard to recall. Okay, is he supposed to be dead at this point, or is he still like working behind the scenes? Because apparently he recorded thousands of hours of tapes of himself,
right,
in anticipation of his demise.
The other thing that really, yes, he's like in the recording studio, like Toast of London, where it's like, can you hear me? It's Clem Fandango. You have to talk about these 2 dipshits who are dating the same girl, and somehow they deserve to get sawed in half because of it. Are we sure about that? Yeah.
What I mean,
record that.
That would be a great thing to happen in the Saw universe. If someone just gets the wrong tape, like, shit, they're talking about a philanderer. No, I'm a degenerate gambler. Is there a philanderer in here?
Yeah, I diddle kids. Is it a different thing? Am I attached to a different device or something? Oh my God.
Oh God.
And here's the other thing that elevates this movie. And Gina, you mentioned it. It's like, not only do these people genuinely deserve this, but we understand why. We are given the entire story as to why. Now, there's some twists and turns in that story. That said, we are given a literal half an hour of this is the reason why this is happening. And I think for me, if I were at Lionsgate and you're like, well, this made money and we can do this for a certain price point from now on, what you do is you never reach Saw 2 and you just live in you just soft reboot this thing and you just tell new stories, but you tell it in this format. You do not go back to the old format.
Right. Just tell a clear, make it, Tales from Sawsville.
Exactly.
Because I was amazed at how coherent the storyline is. He is dying of cancer. He is ripped off and he takes revenge on the people who ripped him off. That is it. It is a simple storyline, reasonably well told.
Yeah. These movies have a real history of the get to the fireworks factory when it comes to the saw traps. Mm-hmm. Because I guess we're thinking that's what we all came to see. But I think even the most immature and infantile audiences do get a little sick of that, especially because these movies have purported to have this really important message and all that shit. And so the fact that we actually take about half an hour to get into it, instead of piecing the motivation together through really shitty expositional dialogue and a lot of telling and not showing, it's like, hey, what if we tried showing?
What if it was a movie?
Exactly.
This time we're going to make a movie.
What if we actually wrote an entire script instead of some kill scenes with the Vegas Gossamer thread tying them together?
Yeah. I mean, I know, and we've talked to people who are genuine fans of Saw 6, which we covered in volume 2. And I think this covers the same territory as that, but in a way that makes me actually care, because you're not putting just an innocent, well, they do put an innocent child in danger. Well, I'm sorry. But if I'm remembering correctly, there's a wife and a kid, a teenager involved in it. And they kind of try to play around with that teenager being complicit and everything.
The teenager melts a guy.
It's just every part. And the other thing is the irredeemable people are so irredeemable and there are so many of them and they have to clear them out so quickly that you don't know who they are. And I don't know why I would care whether or not they live or they die. And they all die. Every single one of them just dies. And this movie does the thing that I kind of want to see, that I remember from the first Saw, which is if you actually perform the test, you can live. You will be mangled.
Right.
You will have a terrible backstory, but you will have lived. And this movie not only does it once, it does it twice.
Right, because he has a, for lack of a better phrase, a fascinating moral code.
Yeah.
In that, I'm going to, teach you the value of life because you have done something bad and clearly don't appreciate the gift of life. Mm-hmm. But if you succeed, I will let you live. And that's why he is so deeply appalled when this gal who is, breaks her own arms and legs to escape, being flame broiled, is just, cruelly killed off by this other woman. It's like, wait, she won. Why did you do that? I was going to take her to the hospital. I don't know how I was going to explain this, but I was going to take her to the hospital.
Drop her off at the front entrance.
This movie is up there with Midsommar and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo for really not allowing me to trust Swedish people. And I have to say, I am left with one Swede that I trust, and his name is William Nylander. But one thing, we're talking about the deaths in this. it's not quite at Saw 1 level, but one of the things that I actually legitimately liked about the first Saw, which I will add, I watched for the first time sitting on a couch with my very skeezy first boyfriend when I was 15 years old. So, oh yeah, it was, and somehow I knew I didn't like it, but I couldn't turn away. But I liked the crudeness of the traps. You got the idea that, you know, like, this is something that an old, sick, weird man could put together. And while we're not quite back at Saw 1 level, this isn't whole rooms devoted to mangling someone. I mean, look, genius, rich civil engineer or not, like, my dad's an engineer. I guarantee you he can't just turn his rec room into a kill machine. And if he can, what has he been keeping from me? You know, like,
well, Bree, for the sake of this podcast and for everyone else, I think we should dedicate ourselves to trying. Can we enlist him to see if he can turn the rec room into a kill zone just for us? I mean, just for science?
Dad, if you're listening, first of all, congratulations on figuring out what a podcast is. But secondly, we'll find out together.
Well, one of my favorite parts of this in the movie, and the only problem is I can't tell if it was meant to be funny or not, is, you know, we're in the moment, you know, the period after John Kramer has, you know, what he thinks is surgery to cure his brain cancer. It's actually kind of tragic, honestly. I found myself, you know, more, I don't know if moved is the right word, but more stirred by this than the backstory of the wife having the accidental miscarriage. But you know, he thinks he's been cured. He's recovering at this luxurious, you know, estate in Mexico. And, you know, this is before he finds out that it's all been a scam. He still has the cancer. He's still going to die. He is sketching in a sketchbook, sketching a trap. And I think it's the trap that was used on Amanda at some point. The big, like, head, you know, thing over your head to hold your jaw open. And
it's some sort of bear trap-ish
right.
thing,
He's just sketching.
I will say, mainly because I've never found an in my life that I didn't actually. And because I have weirdly encyclopedic knowledge of these movies, because I always end up seeing them with, like, friend groups and stuff. It is from Saw 3, and it is probably one of the most violent traps. It's
the one where she rips her head open or something.
No,
right?
It's the quote unquote the rack, and it is a young man who has all his limbs and his head twisted around 180 degrees.
Oh, I don't like that shit.
Oh, it's one of the most brutal ones. It's incredibly uncomfortable with the way he's done up. It's kind of weird, like Christ imagery. That was when I decided, I'm like, there's something really, really fucked up with these movies, and yet I keep watching them.
Well, I just like how he's sketching it, and then he kind of puts it away, like, nah, I'm not going to do this right now.
You know what? I don't have to keep every idea. I'm just gonna relax and enjoy the view here. Yeah, I mean, it is a very, like, it's a beautiful Mexico City park, and you just see him, like, enjoying life again.
He's like happy, and it's like, oh,
it just turns to this book, and it's just page after page of death machines. And he's like, not today, me. And he crumbles it and puts it away. And
I'm like, is that supposed to be funny though? Because I thought it was very funny.
I want to see the version of that scene where he puts down the Talkboy tape recorder. Mm-hmm. Where he's, instead of sketching, he's in between recording his million cassette tapes, like, hello, Mike. You know what? Not today. Not today.
Yeah, he just, like, clears his throat. Yeah, you know, I'm just gonna, you know, get a third pina colada.
The weird thing about this, Bree, and I'm glad you brought it up, that hurry up and get to the fireworks factory issue with the series. This kind of does that in a way, because deep into his cancer era, John happens to be in the hospital where he's told, listen, this ain't happening. And he sees a janitor stealing from somebody who is in a hospital bed. And then one pig mask, chloroform rag later, the janitor wakes up in the movie poster. And his game is he has to break all 5 of his fingers with a little dial. Or his eyes will get vacuumed out with what appears to be a nuclear-powered vacuum, shop vac.
Yeah, that was a little elaborate.
It's a little elaborate. And I'll be honest with you, I think it's my favorite of the entire thing. It's the
I love it. I love that. I think it makes the best poster in the whole series.
Yes. It's just, you wonder, what the fuck is that? Like, what is even, I don't want to think about that. That's how good it is.
It's like he went to the bank, like at the drive-through, and he put the money in with a little pneumatic tube, and he's like, what if that, but eyeballs?
You know, it makes me think, and I'm pretty sure both of you guys are at least Simpsons fans to some degree. There is a Treehouse of Horror episode in which Bart and Homer go into space at the end, and they decide they've had it, and they kind of eject themselves, and their faces and eyes swell up and explode, and that's kind of what I'm picturing.
Yeah, he kind of has a personal get your ass to Mars moment where his eyeballs flare out of his skull and get deposited, for lack of a better word, in the shop vac. And then you snap out of it. And no, I cannot believe we were all stuck inside of Jigsaw's mental drafts folder.
I mean, who's among us, at least once a week or so, does not at least, briefly imagine killing someone in a extremely elaborate death machine?
Yeah. And then
I got really excited about that one because I think all of us have had that moment where we look at a jigsaw trap and we're like, yeah, but I could probably do this. And listen, as someone who just this Tuesday had their left ring finger bent back, I teach acrobatics, and this is what happens when you go up before Miss Bree says 5, 6, 7, 8, and I can't get my wedding ring off. It's been 3 days, can't get it off.
No.
So I'm just like, yeah, I could do that 10 times. I could do that 10 times.
He only has to do it 5 times. That's the thing.
There you go.
It's only one, like, it's kind of soft. And then the thing, like, what happens is, it's like, he thinks about it and goes, I'm too fucking tired for this shit. And just, and the guy puts all the shit back in the drawer and walks away. And he goes, hey, that's a good choice. And that's it. I mean, that is where we're at with this dude, where he's just like, I don't want to get a shop vac in those tubes. I don't want to do it.
I like my eyeballs where they are.
Too much overhead.
For now.
Too much overhead.
Listen, that would take me a week to put together. I just do not have the energy right now. And I feel that. I feel that in my bones. It's the first time I've really felt myself in Jigsaw's place.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I have a little bit of trouble. Now, I mean, I realize these movies aren't going for plausibility.
What?
They're not?
I know, right? I'm just laying it all out here. I'm waiting for the hate emails to come in. But like I said, yeah, I mean, Tobin Bell is literally like 85 years old. Yeah. He looks it, and John Kramer is near death here, and I just don't buy that he has the physical strength and stamina. Now I realize he has helpers and all, but that he can maintain the sort of, stamina that would be required to design, build these traps and lure people into them.
Right. Yeah.
I think I feel like he's going to need a couple days naps just after making those tapes.
The flight to Mexico alone would take him out, man.
Yeah, he's like, they're like, oh well, we have a space for you in our rip-off treatment center, and he's like, I can't survive 3 months.
I do love the way he types. he types like he hunts and he packs, but that hunt, it takes a minute, my friends. and he is typing into the oldest chat windows and browsers you've ever seen in your life. They're trying to sort of stay with the times, and I want it to be even earlier than this. Like I want them to just keep going back into time. No, just allow him to be in get somebody who looks like him in his 40s and tell more prequels of Saw than continuing the sequels of Saw. And just have him like confessing it in a chair or something like that.
I do like that he has a Gmail address. Yes. I am disappointed that it's not X Jigsaw X or anything like that. It's just John Kramer, bunch of numbers at gmail.com.
Billy the Puppet at hotmail.com.
Exactly.
Who flew with Billy? Did he fashion a Billy down there, or did someone fly down a Billy?
Well, I think he's technically under 2, so he can fly for free, right? on the lab.
This is my son. Please do not ask questions. I assure you he will not make any noise. And you know what? People will be perfectly happy with that. And anyway, John Kramer's rich as fuck. He could pay for another seat for Billy.
John Kramer passing out like earplugs and snacks and saying, "Oh, this is my son, but don't worry, he's normally very well behaved, but just in case he's not,
just don't look at him.
He's allergic to peanuts, so please do not pass that to him."
Do you have any Disney movies available for us to watch on the flight?
I would like to play some in-seat entertainment.
Oh, Lordy.
I want to see a whole movie of just John Kramer, just everyday tasks.
I would like to play a game where I get the coffee order that I ordered instead of somebody else's.
Just parking Billy outside a coffee shop. Can you please watch him? For just 5 minutes.
He has a tendency to tricycle away.
Just pushing Billy in the swing with, so let me tell you about my best friend.
Oh, mercy.
Is this movie the closest the Saw films will ever get to having their own Up?
Oh, I wish.
Oh.
Because they set up some Up elements before this, but it does feel like Amanda plays that child, and she has the same haircut as that child scout in that movie. So I do wonder if it is an actual reference point.
I just had this really sad thought of a montage of them building traps together, and John Kramer just keeps getting a little slower, and then
Amanda, I forgot where I put the screwdriver. Again? Yes.
I mean, we all get old. We all get feeble.
Yeah, exactly. But it works here because his life has been sapped away from him.
Yeah.
And as a result, you're left with a guy who looks like he's on death's door. And they're playing it up. They're not giving him a lot of age-defying makeup here.
Yeah, they're like, Tobin, just try to go without sleep for maybe a day or two. Can you swing that? I guess. Here's some Vibrant. Okay.
I want to play a little game with myself, and that's watch late night shows before I go to sleep.
Can I just say, speaking of looking awful and cancer-ridden, because I mean, I know we were talking about the characters. There's not many fleshed out characters even for this besides John Kramer. But as someone who's known a few people with pancreatic cancer, the Jigsaw, you're supposed to be super smart and skilled in everything possible. This Henry Kessler tells you he has pancreatic cancer. One look at him, and why was your reaction not horse shit? Pancreatic cancer is one of the harshest cancers you can have. I mean, there are people who survive it, but it's just like that. This guy barely looks rough, and he's just like, yeah, pancreatic. I'm like, Okay, you're definitely not part of some sort of scheming MLM.
Right. And he gets MLM'd by
sure does.
Henry Kessler, who tells him that he has survived his bout of stage 3 pancreatic cancer due to this one guy, a Swedish doctor, who does a cocktail of drugs and highly invasive surgery. Now he's in remission. And so John reaches out to this miracle doctor's daughter who's continuing the research, but dad's not around. I think she's just grifting, right? Like dad doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
So John flies down to Mexico City, where a driver gives him the full $5 tour of the area. I am just personally desperate to go to Mexico City, by the way. I am told it is beautiful. It looks beautiful here. They resist the urge to filter it all in orange like so many.
There's colors. There's colors in this movie. Bree mentioned earlier, there's daylight.
There's daylight. It's not all green.
Yeah, for like the first 45 minutes or so is mostly daylight.
It's really, really nice.
I was really, really impressed because at first I thought, am I going to like blink and all of a sudden see Apache Burger or the Don Valley Parkway in the background? Because I really like these movies are so incredibly Toronto that like, I swear to God, in one of the opening shots of Jigsaw, you can actually see the hill behind my old apartment. So that's like an exciting thing. It's like, ooh, maybe I was home that day. It is not just Toronto with a yellow filter. Like they didn't Breaking Bad this. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. It's really nice, well photographed. They show a bit of the town. John meets Gabriella, who is a former patient, as far as we know, and is helping as a nurse and assistant. He meets Dr. Cecilia Peterson. She introduces John to Mateo and Valentina, who are two medical professionals on the team, and Parker, who is a patient dealing with thyroid cancer. And we kind of meet them in a laconic way. The film is 2 hours.
It is
could it have shaved 15 minutes? Possibly.
Absolutely could have. It is that's a little long for a horror movie of this type.
I think where I would have shaded, first of all, like I think the whole like Cecilia carrying on her father's legacy, like just get rid of all that. We don't need this mysterious like who is Dr. Pedersen, and it's like just make Cecilia the famous doctor. Women can be famous doctors and sociopaths.
True. Yes.
And then also I think the sequence of kind of getting the band together and abducting everyone. I get that, you're trying to give all these victims a little bit of a life outside. I like that Mateo's kind of a clumsy vet assistant or whatever. Man, creepy vet clinics are used so often in movies. And I have to say, I've never, ever been to a nice, aesthetically pleasing veterinary clinic. So
that's true. You're absolutely right. They're always a little sketchy looking.
Yeah, I love my vets. The office is the worst place I could ever possibly be. I think that whole like violent getting the band together of abducting everyone, it's one of those things. Do I actually need to see how he abducts these people? Do I actually need to, route off the highway for 15 minutes for an attempted sexual assault of one of these characters that as it just so happens, I'm about to see her cut her own leg off and then lose her head. Really?
Yeah, I agree that they could have done just one or two of the kidnappings to establish that everybody's going down for this. I think that's and then have the reveal. It's like, oh, they're all complicit in this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree because they almost set it up in a way. Because when John arrives with the taxi, he's like taken out at gunpoint and put in a van, and they're like, oh, you made it here. This for some reason we decided to grab you at gunpoint away from a taxi driver, which like why
which is definitely something you want to do to someone whose health is hanging on by a thread.
Right. You need a shock to the system.
Exactly.
Dr. Cecilia interviews John a little bit, and she asks what do you do for work? He goes, I'm retired and I have a few hobbies. She goes, what are your hobbies? Well, I help people overcome inner obstacles in their lives. My guy, you're describing Freddy Krueger. You're not describing yourself.
I think that they could say they're in the great pie chart of movie bad guys. I think they would exist in the same space.
Sure.
I mean, he could have gone very little. I make knife chairs.
I'm a home builder. I like to do stuff with my hands, and I'm a motivational speaker.
Just finished a project with a fat guy.
With large gears and lots of chains. Sure. Makes perfect sense. So he goes through with the surgery. They drill into the back of his head. He's awake for most of it. And then they turn the monitor away from him, which is like, what was the point of that? Why even have the monitor near it? I don't know. Anyways, they put him to sleep. They wake him up. They say, you're going to be here for like a week. Here's a bunch of drugs. And then your flight home. And he's like, I'll send you the money. And we're like, ooh, not a good idea. And then it turns out it's all bullshit. Every part of it. And he discovers this when he triangulates the location of that previous impromptu hospital because he's just that smart and discovers it's all been a ruse.
He stumbles upon this like, so you've had fake brain surgery DVD. Was this checked out of a Blockbuster? Like,
yeah, why did they leave that behind? It's not like there's copies of that floating in every town you go to.
Yeah, I get that they're supposed to not be the smartest criminals in the world, but if you have the dedication to set up a fake surgery unit, you do basic cleanup after.
Yeah, and it sort of feels like you would be better off just like letting the person go home and then they just end up dying anyway, rather than making it abundantly clear, we didn't do shit and we took all your money.
But I guess they figure that most people will not find their way back to their base of operations or temporary base of operations. Although it looks like Cecilia has a very nice house. So I don't know why she would leave that all behind. But thank goodness for all of us. I guess Jigsaw flew to Mexico with some sleepy time juice. Because then we get a bunch of kidnappings, starting with the former driver. And this is a bit of improv because he doesn't have a lot of time. There's not a lot of gears here. He's got to work with what he has, which is 2 scalpels and some duct tape and some pipe bombs that he made. Because we can all make pipe bombs. Every architect can, Gina.
Of course.
Today, I struggled to open a zipped bag of freeze-dried fruit, but I am sure I could make a pipe bomb.
Yeah, I broke a thumbnail trying to open up a boxed wine. But give me some string, a little gunpowder. I absolutely will not blow my own fucking face off trying to make a pipe bomb.
I did not electrocute myself trying to replace the faceplate of my thermostat in the house. But that was because I turned off all the power to the house. So I've got that going for me. But would I be able to cut through my forearms to remove pipe bombs before they explode? I don't know.
I do appreciate the crudeness of this, though. Like, this is what I'm talking about. You've got these like fucking duct tape boxing mitts. I love that.
But once you cut one of your arms open, you're really relying on him being able to the duct tape to do the job on the other, because there's a lot of loose arm meat coming off of that one arm.
I feel like this movie needed a few more skin flap sounds, a few more like
Sure.
Yeah.
But Dr. Driver, because he's also the surgeon, manages to cut off some chunks and live, which is
and he's the one that sells out the rest of the crew.
It's a nice change of pace to have somebody live. Valentina is it turns out she's a sex worker in her time off, which no shade.
She probably makes far more money as a sex worker than as a fake doctor, a fake nurse. Like,
yeah. But she's saved in the middle of a sexual assault, only to be kidnapped. So out of the frying pan into the fryer. But again, I had a slight flashback to Freddy versus Jason, Gina. I was like, oh, I don't want people rescued out of sexual assault by death. That doesn't bode well.
Yeah, but she really deserves it, though.
Yes,
she's a bad. Sure. She's a by definition a bad person.
Yeah, right. She's definitely participating in the misery of others for monetary gain, and we don't like it. Mateo is the custodian of, as Bree described it, a very unkempt looking veterinary clinic, who also steals. So in this movie universe, they don't like janitors. We're just
no.
We're gonna put it out there.
Someone's got some shit they're working out.
Seriously. And I think there's also a weird janitor thing from Saw 6, if I remember correctly. It's like Friday the 13th.
Oh, he was the guy who got killed for smoking.
Saw hates janitors.
The janitor got killed for smoking. How dare he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now see that's the point where the Saw movies really lose me, and why I think this one works so well is that, I think at a certain point he ran out of legitimate reasons to kill people. Here, this is a very legitimate reason. I told Patrick last night that if I got like fucked over, someone promised, I'll give you a kidney for $100,000, and I come up with $100,000 and I don't get a kidney, I'm killing some people.
Absolutely.
I get it. I get the motivation.
Yeah, right. It's probably not something we should say on a record, but okay. Yes. I mean, I second that emotion.
People should not offer me a kidney if they don't actually have one. Consider it a warning.
Fair warning, everyone. You either mean it or you will feel the Radcliffe wrath.
Yes.
And then Gabriella apparently is buying drugs from Mateo, which is convenient. She gets maced and kidnapped from a grungy bathroom. It's not nearly green enough. It's just a normal colored bathroom. I was rather surprised.
It's just a little filthy. That's all. And who's among us has not been in a filthy nightclub bathroom?
But it's when we talk about bathrooms, we love to read graffiti. The most predominant graffiti in her stall where she's taking drugs, it just says in very clear letters, very large. It just says idiota. That's it. Idiota.
If I may.
They might as well have had an arrow just pointing down.
True.
If I may, just to make your readers smile, when I was in university, I worked at a bar for a couple of years. It was a karaoke bar. I was a karaoke host and occasional bartender, but at least once a night I had to go and clean up something awful that happened in the bathroom. I'm not sure if there's a formal name for these types of urinals, but I just call them piss troughs because they were the piss trough kind of bathroom.
Yeah.
The best graffiti I ever came across was written with what looked like women's nail polish, and so that would take a while to do.
Yeah.
And it just said, "Don't."
Sage advice.
Put the apostrophe in.
It's like, is that a warning, or did they had to stop what they were gonna paint out?
I did think I was going to find myself in my own personal Saw movie at some point. Like, don't trust, don't pick up, don't.
Just don't.
Don't, Gabriella.
One of these years, Gina will have to just do the "Don't" trailer.
Oh my God, yes. From
Grindhouse. And so when they all wake up, oh wait a second, we have Cecilia.
Yeah, she's the big bad. We can't forget Cecilia.
We cannot forget Cecilia. She has a heavily fortified compound. And someone is up on the roof and drops a big piece of something through a couple windows. She gets into her car, opens the garage door. Why? There's someone in a pig mask waiting for her outside. But wait a second. There's someone with a pig mask who injects her with drugs from the back seat. That's right. Two become one when Amanda is revealed to be under the second pig mask. Or are these just commercially available? I mean, what? Did she fly with the pig masks? Do they have them at she definitely flew with the big coat.
I mean, masks are still mandatory on international flights, correct?
Yeah, they don't say what kind of mask.
There you go.
That's true. Just flying with a pig mask. I would still like to have a snack, but with a straw, please. So when they do all wake up, they are all in the same warehouse that the other lab was in. Luckily for them and for us, it is filled with industrial machines that still work. And first up to feel the wrath is Valentina. And John goes, the key to your freedom is in this bone saw. And Valentina's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then in the line of the motion picture, Amanda looks her dead in the face and says, he was speaking metaphorically. He does that a lot. Amanda, you are reading him for why does this is just, these are reactions in real time as I'm watching the movie. Why does this movie work when none of the other ones that we watched have even approached to working? This made me invested in what was happening.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of astounded by it.
I feel like it's because, I mean, you've got pretty good kills, and the kills are a little more stripped down because at a certain point, the reason I tired of the kills was because when you literally have, I don't know if you guys have done Saw 5 in your Saw. No, you haven't. Spoiler alert, someone gets Star Wars crushed like in a fucking room. A room literally kills someone. And I feel like you lose some of the creativity in that sense, because it's like, yeah, just have the walls fucking close in on him. This is not that. This is a little more down and gritty. But then everything else, the backstory, the exposition, all that, in other Saw movies, it feels like it was shot in a day. Like, you got fucking Donnie Wahlberg arguing with his kid in what was clearly like they pulled them out of their trailer before they broke and went home and said like, hey, can we shoot these scenes? It feels like these scenes, leading up to, as much as there's a lot there. It feels like these were shot over a series of weeks and not hours. Yeah,
there was actual thought put into this, which is amazing to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, Bree, when you said he was arguing with his kid, are you talking about his actual child or the rat friend he makes that we find? That he has a rat friend that he's made friends with for over a year.
He is arguing with the kid from Scream 4 who is not the youngest Culkin.
Okay.
Yeah.
The middle Culkin? A different Culkin?
No, there's because they're the two little movie nerds in Scream 4. One is the Culkin, and I think it's Rory, but then the other is this kid who I only also know from Saw 2.
I'm glad I don't know anything about what you're talking about. I believe you. That's something that probably definitely happened. I can't rule against it. I'm just going to go with your recollections. So what Valentina has to do. Okay. And this is where we get to where even the simple things have one element that's unnecessary. Valentina is tasked with sawing off her own leg and then plugging a suction device into her bone of her femur to draw out enough marrow to weigh a certain amount of ounces, and then the machine will stop. And this is 3 minutes in. And of course, I like every victim in a Saw movie, and probably somewhat of real life, Valentina wastes a bunch of time going, I'm not doing this. I don't want to do this, instead of just getting down to business and going for it.
Yeah, I do think that's funny that these people waste a lot of time, alternately, pleading for them to let them go and also cursing them out at the same time, which it's particularly funny how they keep targeting Jesus Christ, her name just flew out of my head. Shawnee Smith's character, Amanda. Thank you. They particularly target her to curse out. She's holding a fucking taser. Maybe don't call a woman that's holding a taser the C word.
Yeah, that's not going to go well for you. But at least most of these characters are unaware of Jigsaw's existence. Whereas in the majority of these films, they live in Jigsaw Town, USA, Canada. So they all know what's up. You can complain for just a little bit, but you're going to have to actually get down to fucking business. And so Valentina hems and haws and then gets going and then manages to get through her leg and then stick that thing into a femur bone, which is, she has no idea where her fucking femur is, but she's like feeling that out with her fingertips. Get the fuck out of here.
And so it's just occurring to me now, but I feel like these traps are designed to be like, yeah, that's right. You don't know shit about anatomy. Like, you want to pretend to be a doctor?
I mean, that's a good point, though. Actually, you want to pretend to be a medical professional. Well, to see if you can find your brain, doctor.
Right? Oh, Bree, you fucking figured out the movie. I was too dumb to figure it out. Oh my god!
I do that sometimes.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what it was.
I think you fucking figured it out. All right, none of those complaints matter because I'm actually into this. It is actually more thought out than I thought, but it has to have so much bone marrow in order to turn off the trap and give her the key. And she doesn't make it in time, primarily not because she doesn't have the will, but because she just didn't start doing the way fast enough. And she gets her whole ass head chopped off.
I have to say, because I think we've seen at least one, probably several decapitations in Saw movies by now. And I think this might be the best looking one.
It's very practical.
Yeah.
And it looks good. And they shot it well. And they didn't do that weird flashy thing in the middle of it where some go, they just left that.
Yeah, that's another thing that I really like about this one is it's very straightforward. They're not trying a lot of unnecessary camera tricks. There's no everything suddenly slows down for a second or everything gets real grainy. It's just like it is a regular movie.
The Saw movies up until this love what I think it was We Hate Movies is called the cocaine footage, those types of montages of just like, and there you get a little bit of that in these deaths, but this movie shows tremendous restraint. Again, never thought I'd use the words tremendous restraint applied to a Saw movie before.
Yeah. Yes. And it benefits the movie. They just kind of, they give you what you want, but without the forced trappings of this is how a Saw movie death happens. They just go, here's what you have to do. Here's how you get out of it. Here are the consequences if you don't. And then the clock starts and things kind of happen in relative real time. And it makes the stakes higher. It adds a level of will this happen? Will it won't? And you don't know which way it's going to go because you've already seen two people, one because it was imaginary and the other because they just went for it and did what was asked, live. So this person might live. That's where the suspense lives, is in that moment. And they commit to the bit instead of going, no, everyone gets squashed for any crazy ass reason we decide.
Right. Exactly.
And so Amanda has a bit of a moral quandary when it comes to Gabriella, because obviously at one point in her life, she was kind of in the same position. If memory serves, she was a drug addict and she was roped into various criminal acts. And so John kind of at first rejects her concerns, but then attempts to gaslight her into thinking she's ready to take over the family business, which I don't think she is. That being said, at least the weight of what they're doing is discussed, not for super long, but enough time to go, these people are thinking about what they're doing. They're not just some weird torture porn thing, although it is a torture porn thing. But they're making it into a quandary, and it adds weight to what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, there's a phone that's under one of those big ass pig coats on the main torture floor. And so the three remaining players can't actually reach it because they're chained to their respective walls. So Cecilia disembowels Valentina's corpse and makes them use the guts as a rope. Don't worry, folks. This is all a ruse because the phone call that Cecilia eventually makes is to a secret partner that we have seen, but we do not know is involved. And then Minutes later, Parker, the supposed thyroid patient from before, knocks on the door. And this is where, because I had suspicions, but obviously not confirmation, but I liked this as a fun complication. Here's an outside wild element that is complicating what is going on here and adding a level of tension that isn't just a grizzled cop failing to stop jigsaw murders.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why this movie works, is the lack of cops. But yeah, I mean, it takes up a little too much time, the Parker stuff, but I do like it as an outside complication.
Yeah. It felt refreshing that that I'm not constantly going to, Sawsville, USA, Canada's local precinct constantly for failing cop after failing FBI agent to try to stop these murders from happening, in real time, and never doing it. Not once. I don't need it. I don't need it ever again. This shows you that you can find interesting complications and just invest in the game as it is. And that's a movie. You don't have to do that shit. They did it in the first one. You don't have to do it again.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't like about the whole reveal of Parker is, it sort of telegraphs how it's all going to end, because he's all like, oh, I'd do anything for you, baby. it's like, oh, guess who's gonna die? Guess who's gonna be double crossed? And it's like, you didn't have to do that. Come on, you totally, you had me 97% on board with this movie. You don't have to do this.
Yeah, I agree. The end is where things get a little too fast and loose, but it almost earns it at that point, because it's been so decent to a certain degree. Now, Mateo's game is he is strapped to a very heavy, what appears to be a kind of electric chair. And there is electricity involved, but what we don't know is that isn't actually the final death trap. It's just kind of leading him to believe it is. So his is he has a little bone saw thing, and he has to cut into the top of his head, and in a real Hannibal situation, and must cut out enough of his brain and put it in a jar that it creates a circuit, shuts off the electricity to the electric chair, and opens a little key.
That was a little.
It's not so bad, Mateo. Yeah, they let you keep the little piece of brain you cut out. Who's that big man?
Who couldn't do this? And I this was a little like, where did you come up with this one, John? And how many times did you have to experiment, and on whom to ensure that it would actually work?
Yeah, it's a little. Well, he's trying to justify. He's like, there have been guys that I've talked to, they cut out like half their brain and they're still walking around and they play basketball on Tuesdays. And you're like, I don't know, John. I don't know.
I just think it would be funny if, like, in the middle of cutting out a piece of his own brain, Mateo just starts speaking in a completely different accent or something like that.
I was waiting for that to happen, for half his face to start slooping or something.
I was just thinking about, like, I don't know if y'all have seen Fall of the House of Usher yet.
I have not.
I'm only one episode.
Oh, I don't want to spoil it. A character gets hit in the head with a heavy object, and it is actually a pretty drawn out and gruesome and unsettlingly realistic death. And I'm just like, I'm glad they did. I wish they kind of gone there, and I'm also glad they didn't either.
Mm-hmm. This is my biggest problem with this. Is he really does not give Mateo a great angle with his arm to do this, because he's trying to perform surgery with a video monitor and his hand over into the back of his skull. It's just, I don't think I could do that. Just the reach is very awkward, if I'm being honest.
I have a hard time parting my hair when it's upside down. Like,
I do appreciate that he dropped the first piece. I would totally do that.
Yeah. And he has to double dip, and then he gets it in there, and it just doesn't emulsify in time. Ugh. Which, again, I think Bree actually figured this out, because if you're going to play doctor, this is shit the doctors would have to do. And then it turns out that the tramp is actually this giant Mayan or Aztec mask.
It's an easy bake oven.
It's an easy bake oven, Iron Maiden. And my question is this cultural appropriation? And as a white guy with no expertise or experience, I'm just going to say yes.
You kind of, knowing that this is, I guess, a prequel to most of the other ones, you kind of see where he gets the ideas for the future movies. Because it's like, okay, that worked with the guy's face. Now, what if I put the perfectly innocent wife of that grifter, Bobby, in a giant one?
Right. Yes. Like, this is small scale what I could do under the circumstances. I got a chair. I got a bone saw. We can make this happen. Mm-hmm. And these first three, I feel very homemade, right? We'll get to the unhomemade one later.
I do. Now that Bree has cracked the code and figured out that, he's making him do, surgery, basically self-surgery. I do now wish that I do feel now they missed a wonderful opportunity to have someone's trap resemble a game of Operation. Where it's like, you have 20 seconds to remove your breadbasket.
That funny bone is not so funny anymore.
Where instead of like your nose lighting up, it just gives you like, a series of increasingly strong electrical shocks.
Yes.
I'm the doctor for you.
Love it. So for Gabriella, whose game starts kind of impromptu, she's not into it. She doesn't even play the tape. She's like, fuck that noise. And the game just starts. She's pulled up. She's kind of pinned. She's being pulled two different ways in the middle of the sky here. Her left arm by a chain and her right ankle. And Gabriella is then asked to free herself from both by smashing the bones in her foot and wrist to the point where she'll slip through the manacle and away from a radiation machine, which is pointed directly at her skull and is cooking her from the inside.
It's very similar to another movie that you guys recently did, which is Final Destination 3, where people also get heat lamp deathed.
Yes,
it's very true. There's less Slurpees involved
and less nudity too.
That's a point
I'm always amused by how oddly chaste the Saw movies are. Like for as violent as they are, there's a minimal amount of gratuitous nudity in them.
Yeah, I don't even think there's any in here.
No, you do see Jigsaw's ball sack in the fourth one.
In the fourth one, you get a good view of his tank.
They had to pay Tobin Bell an extra $100,000 for the nude scene.
Saw 4, the Grundle Cup.
And so Cecilia, this is where you start to get the idea that Cecilia has some sort of inside baseball here, because she convinces this girl to get her foot out first because it'll swing away from the radiation machine. When if she had just done her hand first, she would have fallen to the ground.
You get a little sense that Cecilia is kind of enjoying this. That she's kind of getting a little bit off on the excitement of watching these people just destroy themselves. She's a little too helpful.
She is, and she's very encouraging.
Yeah, she's like, go ahead, keep cutting out pieces of your brain. I'd be like, what?
You're doing great. Get in there, dig in with those forceps.
Try it again, get a little deeper. Your legs aren't moving by themselves yet.
You can still smell. Pull another chunk out of that bad boy.
Yeah, I think she knows that she is about to be rescued. So I think she's like, well, I'm gonna have a little fun here, and that's how it sets up that she is even worse than John Kramer.
Yes, and it again, the internal logic of the movie does make sense, and you enjoy it a whole hell of a lot more as a result. Mm-hmm. Parker, as we alluded to, or just said plainly, it turns out it is a complete mole. is romantically involved with Cecilia. And is also, so he forces John and Amanda to lock themselves into their own chains at gunpoint. And then it turns out that the kid that John helped fix the bike tire of is just kicking a soccer ball outside. And they're like, let's bring this innocent kid into this. And you're like, you don't need to do that. It's very weird that you feel you need to do this. So Cecilia goes outside and gets him and speaks English to him. And he's like, okay. The problem is, in an earlier scene, when John is fixing this kid's bike tire, he's like, do you know English? And he's like, okay. He doesn't. Why does he not know English then, but he knows English by the end of the movie? Gina?
They put him in immersion courses and in this run up to this extremely elaborate scheme.
Yeah, maybe he just hit the right level at school. Who can say? He's been watching Friends on Netflix. Who can say?
And in that moment, we were all speaking the same language, the language of murder.
So they bring this kid inside and they strap them to two ends of this giant mechanical teeter-totter. Why did this? Because John didn't fucking build this shit. Well, why did this exist in the first place? There's a huge mechanical teeter-totter. The mechanics of the death are reasonably handmade, but this teeter-totter, what was that used for originally? Fish smelting? What happened in this fucking warehouse?
I believe that was on loan from Acme. It was a Bugs special.
Yeah, I mean, it was just basically so Wile E. Coyote could launch himself into orbit and catch up with the Roadrunner.
For what it's worth, I do believe the schoolyard rhyme is teeter-totter, teeter-totter, wash your face in dirty water.
Well, blood's a kind of dirty
you don't get
water.
more dirty water than a nice, thick vat of blood.
Tastes like iron.
And somehow they have access to an endless amount of blood. They didn't gather it from previous murders, so I don't know.
Yeah, this is just like this is flowing right out of the Overlook elevator. There's so much blood.
The blood usually gets off of the second
floor. So they're getting waterboarded with blood, and John says, don't.
This child is remarkably calm during all this. I mean, obviously, because, Patrick, when you edit this, make sure you put in a spoiler alert at the beginning, because this is still a relatively new movie.
True,
the kid also knows what's going on, and this is like a triple cross, basically. Imagine like I think this movie actually benefits from not having too many flashbacks, but it would have been funny to see a scene in which John Kramer tries to explain to this kid, you're going to be dipped in blood for a little while. I just need you to stay calm. I promise you nothing will happen.
Do you sangre, teeter totter?
I'll just draw you a picture.
Hold on, let me get my diary. So one conceivably can win by sacrificing the other, but of course, John won't do that. And the kid kind of is like, no, I'll take some blood for a while to let you know. And he's like, no. And he goes back the other way. And this is when Parker's like, hey, I don't need to see the end of this. Let's be those villains in a James Bond movie and just go, this'll end the right way, and go up and get our money and get the hell out of here. And so when Parker and Cecilia go up to the control room and close the door to retrieve the money, the jigsaw game outside stops and theirs starts. And that is where Cecilia starts to have flashbacks of shit she did not see. Like John taking all the gunpowder out of bullets and depositing money in other people's accounts. It's
this is the point. Yeah, this is the point where it's like, oh, now it's a Saw movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now he's thought so far ahead on this. And he does have that one thing where he tells Amanda, no matter how this goes, like the plan works. So yeah, the control room starts to fill up with the toxic nerve gas. And there's only one portal that you can stick your head out from. It does eat the flesh off of them. So I don't know what her sticking her head out the window means she's not breathing it, but the rest of her body is exposed to the gas.
I was really hoping we'd have a moment kind of like Ace Ventura coming out of that rhino.
Just like
certainly Parker's not enough of a skinny mini to force his way out of there, but Cecilia might if she cracked a shoulder or something like that. She lethal weaponed Mel Gibson her way out of her shoulder. She could probably get out of there. But no, it turns out that the money was taken out of there beforehand. And she ends up stabbing Parker in the gut with just a ragged piece of metal, and then breathing out of a porthole.
As John Kramer, Amanda, and the little kid just walk off into the sunset.
Right, but so does she live?
I assume not. I assume that eventually just ate into her flesh and she died of blood loss.
They got to leave it open for a stinger scene someday, though. When Tobin Bell is 115. She
could come back with like a family opera mask on or something.
Oh my God, that would be great. I see you've adapted to your environment. She becomes Two-Face.
There you go. Oh, let's write a Saw movie.
Yes. Someone let us write the Saw movie. We're halfway there. Don't just take our ideas. Please pay us for them. It totes works to the max. I would just turn
the movie off when it says Saw X. It's good. Right. You leave it right there. Yeah. Do not watch. Don't watch the mid-credit sequence. It's stupid.
Detective Porchetta comes back. We don't.
Basically, if you absolutely need to see what happens to the guy that suggests that John Kramer contact this bogus surgeon, fine. But other than that, you can absolutely skip it.
Yeah, it's not essential. I don't care for it. I don't want it to continue in this direction. I want Cecilia to come back and for it to be a war of jigsaws.
I want Hoffa to stay dead.
Yes, that would be for the best. I like the Saw movie.
I gave it my trademark. It's fine.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm thinking about it a little more. I'd say it's slightly better than fine.
Yeah. It's to my mind, certainly the best Saw movie we've watched.
Oh, 150%.
And I'll say that from the original, because the original, it was innovative for its time. And of course, it pays the price for that for every sequel that came after it, just repeating its formula over and over again to lesser and lesser effect. Mm-hmm. So this was a refreshing change of pace. And yes, this is what I feared. This was my worst nightmare. That I would like. Fuck! God damn it. There were no underground zoos.
No, everything wasn't like a sickly green color.
Yeah, it just it was like a real movie and shit.
It was a real movie. And little too long. But still a real movie.
Very bad wig. I just think we need to give her a better wig.
Yeah, her natural hair is gorgeous.
Yes, I don't. If she doesn't have to have the same hair that she has in Saw 2. Who cares? Just have her have a real, natural, normal looking hair. This was fucking ridiculous. The first time you saw it on camera, someone should have turned and said, this is making her look dumb and there's no reason for it. Take that fucking wig off.
Shawnee Smith is a beautiful woman and they are determined to make her not look like one in these movies.
Yeah. And I don't really know why, to what benefit. Shawnee Smith deserves better. And she finally got good character moments, but I don't like how they're treating her beautiful skull. She deserves more. She should have been the lead of the Blob. We're just going to come out and say it.
Yes.
But of course, that leaves us with our own game, and that's called Choose Your Own Death Venture, and it's where we decide of the deaths portrayed in Saw X. If you were forced to die in one of those ways, which one would it be and why? We have break your own fingers and get the eyeballs sucked out of your skull, cut your own leg off before your entire head gets cut off, cut out sections of your brain before your entire head gets smashed in a mini Iron Maiden easy bake oven, break your own foot and hand while your head gets irradiated, and then have the indignity of getting your neck snapped by your old fucking boss and stabbed and then just taken out by a deadly nerve agent. And so, Bree, you're our guest, and that means you get to go first.
Well, I'm so glad you clarified that the eyeballs being vacuumed out counts because it was part of a dream sequence. And that is what I will pick because I've always dreamt of a death where for the last 5 milliseconds of my life, I get really, really stupid. I want to get to a state of mind where I think cars have wings and the sky is purple polka dots, you know?
Sure. And we don't really know how much nerves eyeballs have. I don't like touching them.
I put contact lenses in and I've had a few contact lens emergencies and I can say my eyes feel a lot of fucking pain.
Oh, well, that does not bode well though, Bree.
Yeah, but I mean, they're the first thing to leave the body though in this situation.
That's true. All right. Gina, what say you?
Well, I really had to think here. Do I want the quick death or do I want the spectacular death? Because usually I tend to take the quick death. So in that case, I would take Parker's death because he just gets stabbed. It's fine. But on the other hand, I do like, my head being slowly sawed off. I mean, again, that's showmanship. And I'm probably going into shock from cutting off that leg anyway. Yeah. So I might not even be 100% aware of what's happening. So yeah, actually, I think I'll take, my head being sawed off.
Damn.
Sure. Yeah. I think you're right, Gina. There's no way I'm doing that break your own hand or foot. Fuck that noise. And that mini Iron Maiden easy bake oven? Hells no.
Yeah, and again, once it starts sawing, your lights out pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, she is tourniqueted and whatnot. There's a lot of pain up front, but the final go is your lights out, baby. And I don't want to be stabbed and then just sucking down nerve agent. That fucking sucks.
Exactly.
So that just about does it. All our art work is done by Josh Hollis. Go to joshhollis.com. Our themes are by Revenge Body. Go to Revenge Body Memphis at RevengeBodyMemphis at Bandcamp.com for this theme and all the others. Bree, where can people find more and hear more about you out there in the world?
Patrick, you're going to be shocked when you hear this, but I actually did deactivate my Twitter account, so I am not on Twitter anymore, and my mental health has never been better. You can...
Right?
I love it. You can find me on Blue Sky at prunetracy.bluesky.social. And my Instagram is private, but if you request, I will probably add you. That is Bree House of Horror, like Treehouse of Horror, but with a B. And then, of course, you can find my podcast, Tales from the Rec Room. It is formerly known as Peak Show, but you can find it wherever you find podcasts. And all the Peak Show episodes are in that feed. Tales from the Rec Room, we are essentially a summer-only podcast, but we are doing some upcoming holiday episodes over the Christmas break. We're doing a special called Home for the Holodunst, in which we focus on different Kirsten Dunst movies. And Patrick is going to be joining us talking about Spider-Man 2, which is very exciting. Yeah. We recently did a Halloween episode, not on a horror movie, but on the great Zelda game, Majora's Mask. And if you go back in our Peak Show archives, you can find an episode featuring Patrick talking about the Final Destination series. So there's we talk video games, we talk TV shows. There is something for everyone on Tales from the Rec Room.
Yeah, people should check them out. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television at thespool.net. I have a Substack, Gina Watches Things at Substack.com. And you could also find me not on Twitter anymore, but on Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok under Gina Does Things.
Do it today, people. Check it out. You can find us on most socials, not Twitter any longer. We're on Threads. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Instagram. We have a Facebook group, which is very fun if you still got a Facebook. And of course, on Patreon, where we do special fun things, extras for you that you should definitely check out. At the end of the month, we're going to do a commentary over Night Train to Terror. That's right, the entire movie, as you demanded it. And I can't wait for everyone to check that out. If you have not rated and reviewed us on whatever podcaster you have, please do so. You can do individual episodes on Spotify and all sorts of places. We do quizzes every week on Spotify. I wish I could talk back to you when you respond, but Spotify won't let me do that yet. It's very weird. But we love new reviews. Tell us what your favorite horror movie death is, and we'll talk about it on this here podcast. Our guarantee to you, the Kill by Kill listener. And that just about does it. But don't worry, folks. The body count will continue for myself, for Gina and Bree. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Happy Sawsgiving, everyone.
God bless.